Good morning, everybody. Today I wanted to share with you an excerpt from this old zine. This was a collaboration between me and David Small. David lives in Amsterdam, and I was living in Portland at the time. Still living in Oregon. And we wrote each other letters back and forth for a whole year. And I did another one of these with a friend that lived in China at the time. So I have two of these letter zines, correspondence zines, and this one is between me and David. And Aaron Robert Miller designed this beautiful cover for me. So I'm going to read an excerpt from my first entry. At the time so this was from August of 2015. And it's really a trip to go back and read these old zines that I haven't revisited in a while because I think so much of the last 4 years has been shaped by the trauma of having Trump as a president. And, there's through lines here, but then also it still feels like I'm reading the diary of someone that doesn't exist anymore, in a very fundamental way. Anyway, so I was house sitting out in Corbett when I wrote this, which is a little tourist town on the Columbia River Highway in the Gorge, and that's where I grew up, but I was house sitting for someone when I wrote this entry. It's a little lonely here, and I had a bad night last night. I lay in bed and remembered going to a Cushing's conference in California a few months before I got my adrenal glands removed. I met a woman in a wheelchair who said that I shouldn't be afraid. She'd had hers removed in the 70s. I'm fine, she said. Well, except the peripheral neuropathy. Another woman came up behind me and said as she kind of hit me on the shoulder, You're a cushy. I frowned. This is not a compliment. Yeah, I'm not cured yet. I'm probably going to have my adrenals out. Yeah, I looked at you and thought, that woman has active Cushing's. The woman was kind of jerking around and talking very loudly. I could tell by looking at her that she wasn't cured either. They say I'm cured, but look at me, she said, pointing at her face. I just grimaced. The other women at my table, nearly all Cushing patients are women, and the experts don't know why, started asking her questions about her surgery and how much hydrocortisone she was taking. I kind of zoned out. Specters all around. I went back to my hotel room, took some Vicodin, and watched cable television. Last night, before my dark mood descended, I'd sat and watched a couple documentaries about the Cappadocia region in Turkey. Several million years ago, there was volcanic activity in this region, giving it a unique geology suitable to rock carving and cave architecture. The area has something like 200 underground villages and cities. The largest is estimated to have housed many thousands of people in its underground caverns. One goes 8 stories into the earth, humans living like ants. According to historians, the underground cities were built for security reasons. This part of Turkey was located on the profitable Silk Road, and raids were common. Invasions from the Romans and later the Turks also put the ancient Cappadocians in harm's way regularly. The underground cities were built like medieval castles in reverse, with huge stone-wheeled doors, holes, and cavities especially built for sabotaging invaders at every turn. But sitting there in the darkness of the farmhouse living room, I couldn't help but think of the deepest chambers of the deepest underground city, the one where they kept their hoard of grain, their gold and treasures, gleaned from centuries of passing caravans. How long did the Cappadocians sit in the darkness waiting for the siege to end? What stories did they tell each other? What songs did they sing? As the lamp oil and the grain dwindled, did they ever wonder if it was all worth it? It's not a question the haves often stop and ask themselves. What am I willing to sacrifice to avoid becoming one of the have-nots? I may have mentioned before that my steroids were recently increased because I was exhibiting signs of something called Nelson syndrome. Nelson syndrome is a rare condition that turns your skin dark and ruins your liver. My levels of a hormone, ACTH, had been elevated, and my doctor had noticed how my knuckles were turning dark. The melanin gathers first around your joints, where the skin gathers in bunches. I recently had a blood test, and I'm fine now. The increased steroid dose fixed the problem. But for a brief moment this summer, I wondered what life would be like for me had my skin turned darker, browner, uniformly all over my body. I had joked with my friends that it would have been an odd primer in social justice and racism. I said if I wasn't cured, I might look like a member of a different race. The words felt strange coming out of my mouth. A different race. It wasn't exactly what I meant to say. I think now what I really wanted to say was, it might be interesting to see how it feels to lose my white privilege. The added steroids are making it very difficult for me to lose weight. I'm also trying to quit smoking and generally become healthier in my daily habits. I decided today that I do want to live into old age, whatever that looks like, even if I end up in a wheelchair with peripheral neuropathy. I took a walk behind Women's Forum, and on my way down the trail, I thought about the article I'd read over coffee, Holding the Tension, Whiteness versus European Cultural Identity. I've been reading a lot of material lately about the historical origins of the white race, and as a result, the beginnings of white privilege and white supremacy. I have educated myself on the ways that this privilege has been systematically expressed throughout America's history. It goes way beyond slavery, and of course, I don't have the space to address it here. After my research, I didn't want to call myself white anymore, because the whole idea of whiteness was created as a precept of white supremacy. You can't separate the two. I thought I'd rather say that I'm of European descent. But it doesn't matter what I want. I can't really say, I'm not white. I am white. It would be kind of like saying, money's just paper, man. Yes, race is a social construct, and so is money, but it's a pretty powerful one that controls nearly every facet of our lives. I'm still walking down the hill as it gets steeper and steeper, and I think about the beginning of paper money and what an ingenious development that must have been. And before that, the beginning of trade in gold coins. How it then took privilege and an army and a city 8 stories deep into the ground to guard wealth, to protect that system of keeping more than you need on any given day. I feel like here in this moment in time, we're like those Cappadocians under siege, half a mile under the earth, guarding our treasure trove of privilege. We can hear the invaders up above and wonder, what will last longer, their will or our supplies? And even if we wanted to give it up, it's beyond us now. As an individual, I have no control over any of this. It's that paradox. I am a financially vulnerable person with a chronic illness who simultaneously lives a life of great privilege. So that's kind of a long one, guys, but I just want to say thanks to everyone that supports me on Patreon. If you want to support more of my writing and my art, visit my Patreon page at patreon.com/Martha Grover. And for as little as $1, you can read everything I post on there. And if you subscribe at the $5 level or above, you get a free zine every time I put one out. One of these, I will mail it to your house. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.